This is a tale of the Goody Two Shoes and the filthy beast.
When we last left our adventurers, Seth had just knocked Selah unconscious and stormed off when Gretel began tending to him. Eventually, Seth sneaks back for them, finding Gretel carrying the now lizard Selah. They keep marching to get out of these woods, but they are getting exhausted. Eventually, Seth steps out of the shadows and tells Gretel that they need to stop. She keeps marching for 5 minutes, but then stops and confronts Seth, telling him that the trog is Selah, so he better not try anything. They find a nearby clearing where Seth goes to sleep, with Gretel keeping watch. At sunrise, Gretel uses her healing belt on Selah, finally waking him. He recounts what he remembers of what happened, which isn't much. They wake up Seth to talk to him, and he immediately bolts into a tree and won't come down. Since Gretel desperately needs sleep, Selah takes over on watch. After a short time, Selah can hear joyful laughter for just a moment. Seth feels a small pinprick in his side and wakes up, while a tiny arrow clatters off Selah's scales. He yells to wake the others up, saying that something shot him. Selah also starts dancing, quite involuntarily. More arrows fly out at Seth and Selah, and Gretel begins babbling incoherently. Not being able to see their attacker, though hearing his laughter, the group leaves. Unfortunately, the arrows and effects follow. After another arrow flies by Gretel, she freaks out and bolts in the direction they had come from. Seth uses detect psionics and can finally see their attacker, a pixie. He points out the location to Selah, who strikes it, though it seems to have no effect. The pixie then flies straight up and out of sight. Selah and Seth then run after Gretel, but when they catch up to her, she turns on them, telling them to stay away and brandishing her halberd. She then bolts into the woods, forcing Selah and Seth to give chase. Gretel keeps telling them to stop and that she doesn't even know them. Selah puts his weapon down to make Gretel less wary, but it doesn't help. When Seth gets too close, Gretel smacks him with the flat of her halberd. Seth then immediately starts hiding again. They continue this pursuit for another 10 minutes before Selah calls out again, convincing Gretel that there are far greater dangers in the woods than the two of them, and that they have to leave. Now. The group marches back to the path and then continues on their way out. Seth and Gretel are completely exhausted, having had little to no sleep for days. Seth even passes out along the road, and is woken by Selah using his healing belt. Finally, they make it clear of the woods, and Seth immediately goes to sleep, right on the road. Gretel is a little warier, but also needs to sleep, so she allows Selah to keep watch. Early on in the watch, Selah sees a dryad, a different one this time, beckoning to him from the forest edge. Selah approaches with caution, but she only wishes to speak. Saying that Selah is an honorable creature, the dryad wishes to help. According to her, Gretel has had her memories wiped, and will need the services of a healer to recover them. The dryad also asks Selah to pass on the message that these woods are now closed to outsiders, and he agrees to do so. Before she leaves, the dryad offers Selah a gift, a small pendant of a tree in snow-covered ground with flame-red leaves, and says that this will allow him, and only him, safe passage through these woods. Selah wakes up Seth to tell him what just happened, but the Kenku doesn't really care and goes back to sleep. The rest of the long watch goes uneventfully, and when Seth and Gretel wake up, Selah goes to sleep as he now needs it. Seth and Gretel spot two people coming down the road, and Gretel summons a longsword as a precaution. The pair, a human and a small giant, appear to be warriors with chain shirts and steel shields. The human has a longsword, and the giant a scimitar. Seth wakes up Selah, telling him about the approaching figures. Selah wants to stop them from entering the woods, so he calls out. The human approaches and asks why they are camped in the middle of the road with no fire. Selah explains that after traveling through the woods, they were too tired to set up a proper camp. The human introduces himself as Yark, and his squire as Enyaniah. He says that they were tasked with reopening the road through the woods. Selah warns him that the forest guardians will not allow that, but he is willing to talk to them if Yark wishes. Since confirmation of this would help his report, Yark asks that Selah does go and speak with them. Selah approaches the woods with his new pendant held aloft, and asks to speak with the guardians of the forest. After a short time, a pixie appears, saying that the dryad sent him. When Selah waves for the knight to join them, the pixie reiterates what Selah was told earlier. These woods are now closed. Back at the camp, Selah explains a bit of what happened in the woods. He asks if they know of any healers nearby, as they could definitely use one. Yark recommends that the group head to Therengrad, as it is the only large city in the area aside from Takros, which is closed. The knights join them for the night, Selah and Enyaniah sleeping, while the others keep watch. In the morning, Yark says that he is going north, stopping at a farm along the way, and that they are welcome to accompany him until the roads part. The group agrees, so they all set out together. As they are walking, Yark tells them that he is part of the Hedge Knights, one of the most liked and least populous organizations within the Terre Soleil. He asks a bit about the group's travels, and whether it is difficult being a troglodyte, dealing with the prejudice. Selah explains that he had been a Goliath until that unfortunate trip through the woods. The day passes uneventfully, and they set up camp for the night, with Seth taking first watch, Yarok second, and Selah third. The first two pass without incident, but at the end of Selah's watch, two big black hawks dive out of the sky and attack Seth. The hawks manage to claw at Seth a bit, but the birds quickly go down under the combined attacks of all five. They set out after the fight, heading north along the road again. Around midday, they arrive at a farmhouse, and Yarok walks towards it, beginning to take off his armor. Yarok had apparently promised to do a few odd jobs here on his way back. The group decides to stay and help as well, and the farm couple, Auguste and Mariah, welcome them, though Mariah asks Selah to sleep in the barn due to worries about the stench. Selah spends the day helping dig an irrigation system, Gretel helps with the crops, and Seth babysits the two grandchildren of the couple, a pair of 2-year-old twins who swiftly dub him Mr. Chicken. After supper, they all head to bed, Selah and Seth in the barn, while Gretel shares the hearth with Engenaya. And this is where we have left off. So, will Gretel ever recover her memories? Will Selah be stuck as a troglodyte? Has Yarok signed up for any more menial labor along the way? Find out next time on Goody Two Shoes and the Filthy Beasts.